We defined the product model, and I mentioned that we can now work with this model to create new products and so on. But for this, we of course also need a product table in our database. And there right now we got no tables because I deleted the products table earlier in this module. I also mentioned that Sequelize can create these tables for you, and it indeed can. Now, to create tables for you, you just have to tell Sequelize to do that. And I'll do that in the app.js file. In there, I want to ensure that all my models are basically transferred into tables or get a table that belongs to them whenever we start our application. And if the table already exists, it will of course not override it by default, though we can tell it to do so. Now in my app.js file, which is the file I execute when I do start my program, I want to import from the database file as I did it before. I'll just rename it to Sequelize because I do import my Sequelize object with a lowercase s because I'm importing from my own utility database setup file. And then towards the end of this file, let's say here, I want to call Sequelize, and then there's a special method, the sync method. The sync method has a look at all the models you defined, and keep in mind, you define your models in your model files by calling Sequelize define on that same Sequelize object. So it's aware of all your models, and it then basically creates tables for them. That is what sync does. It syncs your models to the database by creating the appropriate tables and, if you have them, relations. So here I will call sync, and then I can listen to the result of this. Let's see what we get back as a response here, or what we get back as a value here. And we can also, of course, catch potential errors that occurred. And if an error occurred here, well, then we can essentially also log that. And I only want to, let's say, start my server if we somehow made it into then. Let's see what this gives us. If I now run npm start here, it starts up and we see there is some log output. If you scroll up quite a bit because we got back a complex object, you see that this is a default log thrown by Sequelize. It executed this SQL query for us without us writing this query. It created a table, if it did not exist yet, which it named products, and that is an automatically inferred name because we named our model product. It automatically pluralizes that. And then it assigned a couple of fields there, which it configured according to our model definition. And then this is the return value we get back, basically our Sequelize object, you can tell. And if I now quit this server with Control-C, clear the console, and rerun npm start, you see it runs this again. But it does not overwrite the existing table because we have that if not exists check in there automatically. So we can run this again without issues, and our server starts up. Even if this table already exists, we still make it into then. Now I will comment out that result log because I don't want to have this long object every time in the console every time we start this. So now I just get my SQL query here. And if we now have a look at the workbench and we right-click on our database and click on refresh all, we see that under tables, we get a products table. And if we inspect that with this icon, we see all the fields we defined, and that is added by Sequelize, 2 new fields, created at and updated at. So it automatically manages some timestamps for us. We could disable this, but I actually like this feature, so we get these automatically managed fields too. This is how we sync our tables to the database and what Sequelize does for us, and with that, we're now ready to use that.